And we are live. We are back and welcome to the Savage Spatula. This is your host, Shalom Salinas, and thank you all for tuning in to tonight's episode. I just want to apologize for the delay on posting the podcast on YouTube. I had some technical difficulties, if I could use that term, in doing so. And I'm going to be doing things a little differently tonight. Right now, I was trying to get live on YouTube, but again, some technical difficulties arose, and what I'll be doing is figuring out how to do it properly and then posting it on Spotify and iTunes the following day. As always, I'll be live from 9:30 and 9:45 and see where that takes the guest and myself, and hopefully that leads into some awesome conversations. Now, if you haven't heard of the Savage Spatula, I'll just go over it really quickly. Make sure to check out the first episode. It's up on Spotify and iTunes. And we are hoping that you like what you hear and you like the content that we are diving into. Now, just wanted to clear this up. I won't be having a guest on this episode. Not because I don't want to. Simply because I want to develop the topic that I'm going to be diving into tonight a little deeper. And I find it easier if I do it single-handedly. Of course, I will have more guests in the upcoming episodes to discuss any newsworthy topics. But that's enough of talk. Let's get right into it. Something that I personally have always really wanted to talk about has been the internet and social media. Social media and the internet are what you could say such defining things for our society. Right, and it's something that we depend so much on nowadays that we often don't realize. Right, and what I really want to focus on today is the topic, if we're really safe on the internet. Now, in terms of if we're safe on the internet, that's such an ambiguous question. It could go either way. But let me start off with a little bit of context. For my last official assignment of my undergraduate studies, I had to completely analyze an algorithm of my choice and explain and break down how this algorithm was either beneficial or detrimental to society. Now, after some thought, I chose an algorithm that was based off of Facebook and how that algorithm ran their data mining in their website, app, and third-party associates. Now, I know some of you are like, what in the world is data mining and what is an algorithm? Let me just put it in some simple English if I could do that. Data mining is what sometimes we call knowledge discovery in databases, also known as KDD. Data mining is basically finding new information in a lot of data, so in a pool of data, and the information obtained is usually and hopefully something new and useful to the company. So, when it comes to data mining, there's a lot of different kinds of data minings, and there's a lot of different ways of getting brand new information. And usually, to achieve this information, you use algorithms based on prediction. Now, an algorithm, in simple terms, is just a complicated calculation that creates a model. It creates a pattern and analyzes all the things based on that data. And it gives you sort of a layout of what is happening, what you can expect, and what you can do with that data. So, for example, I guess just more of like a real-life example, ads. When you, let's say you're shopping on Amazon, and you decide to click on new headphones. And you click on the headphones, and you're like, oh, these are pretty cool, but, the times are hard. I really don't want to buy them. Maybe you just really don't feel like buying them in that time. So you close the browser, and or you even just close that tab and open a new tab. You start surfing the web on Facebook or what other website it may be. And all of a sudden, you start seeing an ad for that exact same pair of headphones that you had seen 15 minutes ago. Right, so it's that algorithm that is put into place in a lot of these websites, especially Facebook. So you will be on a website, for example, as I said, Amazon, and these things will follow you website after website. And it's that algorithm that they put into place to get that data from you, to be able to access that information and use it in a different way. Right? So as I started getting deeper into this project, into this case study, I realized just how much of our information is being sent out to third parties. And it's unreal to think this. I was so shocked. And it's just mind-blowing to realize how easy it was for Facebook and a lot of these companies to get loads of information from millions of users and use that for other purposes. Now, what those purposes are, I don't know, and frankly, I really don't want to know. Now, for those that aren't informed, Facebook was involved in a massive privacy scandal. Now, it's like, oh my gosh, Facebook in a scandal. What basically happened is that Facebook was trying to contain a lot of problems and concerns about how it protected the data of its 2.2 billion members. Now, let that sink in. Facebook is a hub of data. 2.2 billion members is a lot of people. And in March 2016, this place called Cambridge Analytica, so it's a company based out of London. They specialize in data mining. So they specialize in getting a bunch of data, whether it be in a legal or in an illegal way. They have some ties with the current U.S. President Donald Trump. They lifted some of the security policies off of Facebook profiles of tens of millions of people without their permission in order to get some information off of them which would allow them to sway the elections. So basically the firm got Facebook information through an app that gave permission to access the people's accounts, as well as additional data from their Facebook friends, which is that's crazy. You would never think that things like this would ever happen, right? The problem seemed to worsen the anxiety of many of the people of how they felt about Facebook. And in reality, it does, even for someone like me, it does worry me, right? It begs the question, how capable is Facebook of preserving your information and your privacy at a decent security level, right? Do you really think they're adequate enough in terms of preserving it or keeping it safe from all these third parties, right? It makes you think that if this company was able to get that information, they were able to mine that information, what else could they do, right? And they did that without Facebook even knowing, right? As I said, it begs the question about Facebook's ability to protect the privacy of its users while also exploiting their personal details to fuel all the advertisement business that is going on in Facebook. Now, I'm not saying that Facebook was the one that was, guilty, but they also have a hand in giving away information for advertisements. As I said, I provided that example of Amazon, right? And what is unreal is that Facebook, according to an article by CNBC, and The Guardian, stated that there was as many as 87 million people that might have had their data accessed. 87 million people. That is absurd. That is it's mind-blowing. To think that 87 million people might have had some type of information accessed by someone who accessed it illegally. Or it may have been in a legal fashion, but when I say illegally, it means that they did not ask for the consent of the person. They did not ask for the person's permission to access that information. Now, most of these users, right, have had their profile, their public profile information scrapped by a lot of these, what we could call malicious actors at some point, right? And that's through the feature on Facebook that lets people search users through email or address or phone number. And while this helps find friends, there's nothing wrong with that. Why not? Why would you not want to find friends with email or their address or phone number, whatever it may be, right? I know Facebook has a lot of these features, right? And some other social media outlets don't have these specific features like through finding them with their address, but with their email. I don't know about phone number. I'm a little iffy about that. But personally, my Facebook profile isn't set up so you can find it with my phone number. That'd be a little absurd. Even with like my home address, that's a little crazy. I don't know who would actually put their home address unless you're a business, which is fine. But email, you'd definitely be able to find my Facebook profile through that. And as I said, there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is, it's such a double-edged sword because not just average people like you and I use that, but a lot of malicious actors, a lot of malicious companies do that as well. They use that technique, right? A lot of cybersecurity companies believe that, the people that have access to this information, they could have been identity thieves, scam artists, or shady data brokers that are selling it to assess any advertising or marketing profiles that they can use later. Now, on top of that, some of the users who logged into Facebook through their Android devices discovered that Facebook had been collecting phone call logs and text history. Oh my goodness gracious. Can you imagine that? If you had been calling on your Android phone or texting your side bay, people would have access to that. Oh my goodness. That is so rough. Like, imagine that. Like, I'm not condoning having a side bay, but that would be quite exposing. It was, and it was these discoveries that really opened my eyes of what was going on in the internet, and not just Facebook in general. Right? If we dive in deeper, internet security is just something that is, I guess, we could call taboo. Right? We talk about it in certain instances, and we try not to bring it up in a very specific sense. We like to talk about it in a broad sense. Because we know that the deeper we get, the uglier it is. But in terms of internet security, some may know it as cybersecurity. And this is something that has drawn a lot of attention from the media, and mostly users like you and I in the last few years. And honestly, it's crazy how fast society has adapted to the changes of the internet and social media and technology in general, for that matter. Right? It's not a mystery that the internet has transformed the way we live, work, and play. And I'm not bashing the internet by any means. No, don't take me wrong. The internet is something that has revolutionized the way we live, right? It has opened so many means of connections. It has changed the way we do business. It has changed the way we communicate, the way we receive education, whatever it may be. There's so many good things about the internet. But with the speed and convenience of everything from online shopping to smart government databases, like you could fill out your taxes online, you can get your statements from work online, all these things, they come with new threats to our security online. Right now, you may be thinking, that's just, the extremist websites that collect all your information and try to steal your virtual identity. But realistically, there are so many things that we have to weigh and balance and see if the risks outweigh the benefits. And what should be the balance between freedom and security online? Like, realistically, when you log on to Facebook and when you just open your email or try and browse the internet, you, in your mind, you think that you are browsing freely. You think that you are having, a good time. But in reality, you don't know, and you could be getting monitored by that website. Your data could be getting mined by these third-party associates, right? But it comes down to that question, right? What is that balance between freedom and security online? And it's something that is so hard to even decide or just arbitrarily say which one is right or not. And as someone that graduated from a computer science degree, and I specialize in data forensics, it's somewhat awkward for me to take a stance for privacy on the internet, right? Because we sort of take the, you could say, like we sit on the fence, right? We take a neutral stance just because we know how much goes into these algorithms and how hard it is to actually put them out and put them in code, and I respect the hard work of some of these coders, right? But I also understand that as human beings, we all deserve our privacy and are entitled to have our information kept safe and far away from people, organizations, and all these data mining programs. Now, the deeper we go in, I'll try my best to tackle this in a fair way and present the positives of the internet. The pros and cons of online privacy and what that means to us, regarding online security and just online peace of mind, right? And I guess a good starting point would be to understand the difference in between the two. And I guess to do that, we can remove the word online. If anything, do we understand the difference in between security and privacy? Of course we do. Everyone does. Understanding what security and privacy mean without the online in front of them is pretty straightforward. It's not rocket science. Right? Privacy is about keeping things out of the public. It's about keeping what is personal, and having certain aspects of your life just to yourself. Right? And security is more about being protected from all types of threats and feeling safe. Basically, security is what we could say the state of freedom from dangers that may and could potentially happen to us. And I guess, sorry, just having a little drink of water. A great analogy that we could sort of use to make this a little easier to understand. Imagine, you live in a house like we all do, and it's late at night, and the lights are turned on. Your whole family is there, and if you don't want strangers to be able to see what's happening on the inside of your house, you use curtains on your window or blinds, whatever it may be. That's how you protect your privacy, right? You sort of close the blinds, or you bring down the windows and then close them up, and close the screens, whatever it may be. You move your curtains to the side, and that, as I said, that is privacy, and that's what we usually expect, right? Like if I'm being entirely honest, in the summer, I like lounging around in my boxers when I'm at home. I really don't feel like having my neighbors see me just running around in my boxers. Could look weird, and I do want that privacy. Right, so I will close the blinds, and I'll have that privacy. Now, if you don't want thieves, and if you don't want anyone to come in and break into your house, if you're, rich enough, you close the front gate, or if you're just an average Joe like me who doesn't have a front gate, you just lock the door. And that's how you protect your security. So those are, I guess that's an easy way of distinguishing them, right? And taking it back to sort of that internet context, online privacy is mostly about your natural right, I guess, to own the data that you generate on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and restrict the flow if you feel like keeping it personal. So I guess Snapchat is a great example, right? There are certain things that you can take pictures of, whether it be good or bad, but you can control who you send it to, and you control if you want to send it to anyone in the first place, right? And that goes with any social media outlet, if we're being entirely honest, right? Now, in terms of online security, it's mostly about guarding our data, right? Protecting the data that you have in the web-connected gadgets that we own, right? So it's protecting your data that you have on your phone, on your camera, from cybercrime threats like malware, phishing, and identity fraud, right? These are things that I guess are classified as online security. But before we go and talk about that, let's talk about privacy first. So online privacy. Now, online privacy, it's a part of a human being to do or just have things for ourselves. It's in our human nature, right? You could go out and have fun with your friends, but you always want to spend that alone time with you, right? Because we are wired to be particularly sensitive to social pressure. It's in our human nature. We've also developed a sense that some things should be private to avoid things like social rejection or vulnerability. Naturally, we all have things we don't want to be seen, right? We also, want the things that happen online and are stored online. We want those to stay hidden. We want those to stay private. We don't want other people to see those things, whether it be the things you search in a web browser, be it good or bad. I'll leave that up to your discretion. But basically, we need online privacy to protect our reputation. Now, I know that sounds cheesy. Just bear with me, right? To keep our sensitive data, like health records, which is very important, or financial credentials safe. A big thing is like Apple Pay or autofill passwords on a lot of your websites, things like that. You want those things to remain safe. And, you want to have all that information to yourself so companies aren't collecting that data, aren't collecting all this information and use it to manipulate advertising or marketing. And that's basically the online privacy. Right now, as for online security, this is where things get a little serious. Because online security dangers come in many shapes and forms. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into each of the forms it could come into, just because, first off, there's millions of ways, and second of all, I would be here all night if that were the case, right? Some of the forms that it comes in are malware, for example, phishing, and this is to hack and receive a lot of the data that you have on these devices, on your computer, on your phone, whatever it may be, and it creates data breaches, right? In plain English, these dangers refer to the risks of, for example, installing a harmful virus on your device, being stolen from, losing control over your email or social media accounts, among other things. Like, for example, getting your Facebook account hacked. I know this when they first came out with Facebook. Actually, I take that back. When I first started using Facebook, I do remember my account getting hacked. I really don't know how. It just happened. I really never shared my information with anyone. But it's something that does happen, right? And what really is a bummer is that if you don't protect your information, if you don't have that online security, it could honestly result in you having a lot of trouble offline, right, in real life, right? And I guess like a very, very vivid example would be stuff like online predators targeting kids, which is sick. Ugh. I really don't like that, right? Or sex offenders spotting your location to meet you in real life. This is why things like online security are very important. And these are the positive sides of online security, right? You can avoid people like online predators or sex offenders trying to access your data if you do have the correct online security in place, or if you do have the right protection, right? And the thing is, in all honesty, it can happen really easily with all the social media security that you have in place, right? So there's only so much a company can do, but it also comes down to you as well. Like, I'm a fairly transparent guy. When it comes to my Instagram profile, I don't keep it private, not because I don't want to, it's not that, I want a private life. I don't really post on Instagram to begin with, but I do set certain security settings at a level that I know that some people won't be able to access it. And it is so important for us as users to have these things in place, right? Because personal privacy is just so important in our lives. We revolve in a society where everything is found online, everything is found on the internet. On any social media outlet, you could, if you looked hard enough, you could find someone, you could find information. Ironically, I have some workmates in Pittsburgh, and when we first started working together on a project, they made up a game, I guess, to get to get to know each other a little better. And the game was that we had to find out as much information about each other without, I guess, asking physically. So verbally asking the other person. So we only were allowed to use social media and just normal web searches and maybe some refined ones in there. And after all that finished, we were surprised of how much information we found on each other. And the crazy thing is that each one of us, according to us, had fairly high security settings, so no one could access certain information that we didn't want displayed to others. So just to sort of recap that, you do have to have some type of initiative to set these security settings at a fairly high level if you do want to avoid some awkward instances where you want people that you don't want will have your information. Now, personal privacy realistically is a fairly new concept. Now, I'm not saying that we haven't always wanted privacy. I'm just saying that online personal privacy is a fairly new concept. Because if we go back in time, most people used to live in tight-knit communities, right? They constantly enmeshed with each other's lives. The notion of privacy wasn't as important in those days, right? But now, it's such an important part of personal security. It's often contested whether personal privacy is as important as online security, right? For example, walls which must be guarded, doors that which must be locked, right? You never argue about locking your front door. That's a must. Everyone does that. But whether you want to close your blinds or your curtains or not, that's completely optional. You would still sleep at night with peace of mind if you left your curtains open. But you wouldn't sleep the same if you left your door unlocked. Right? So that's the thing when it comes to privacy and security. Oftentimes people sort of belittle personal privacy and put personal security on a pedestal. Right? And oftentimes we give up too much privacy for companies to establish security online, right? Which is unreal because sometimes the governments, and as we've seen in the past, companies, nations, and just corporations in general take that thought and take that opinion that we have about personal security online is so much more important than privacy and take it to another level. They cross the line. We see examples such as Edward Snowden. Now, Edward Snowden is a fairly controversial person, and I do admit that. He has done some things that are not right when it comes to publicizing some information that may have harmed certain American citizens, and I completely understand the American government on that standpoint. But he did also reveal some things that are quite alarming, right? The fact that the government is, in fact, mining all this information, is gathering all the information from certain people through webcams, through third-party programs, through algorithms that they've inserted in a lot of emails, etc., etc. Right? So there are pros and cons to what he is saying. But his main argument is that the government, yes, does put our protection first, but it also compromises a lot of our own online privacy. So it does, in a way, make you feel nice. You are a citizen, and the fact that you know that your government is going to try the best to protect you from any harm that could happen, via online means or just a communication that could help, let's say, a criminal execute a crime, that helps you a lot, and you do feel good about that. But what you don't feel good about is that the government constantly has access to your emails, to your webcams, to your phone, to your call logs, and everything like that. I do understand that national and online security is very important to us, but privacy is just as important, right? There's no point of protecting your nation if you can't express the privacy that you have as a right as a human being. Every human being has that right to have their own privacy, right? And it's unreal because they do take advantage of this sometimes. Now, as I said, this could be a double-edged sword. It is good and it is also bad. But even within the corporate setting, you can see the secrecy that some of these companies have with the information, right? And it sort of reinforces the notion that privacy is a luxury for the rich, powerful, and virtually is inessential for people like you and I. Right? If I could, I guess, make an example, it wouldn't make that much difference if Amazon or Facebook or Google or even Apple were to open up their books and their roadmaps, right? And tell everyone what was going on in the company. Similarly, it won't make that much difference if ordinary people had to give up their privacy in the name of public security, right? That's what a lot of these companies are saying, right? That's what a lot of these companies are using as a foundation, and a lot of these government organizations are using as a foundation to access people's information, saying that people really don't care about privacy if they know that they are going to be safe in the long run. Living in communities where everyone knows another's business, is fairly natural. And, you could take like a complex, like an apartment complex, where there are dozens of inhabitants in it, and not all of them know their names, right? And that's just the sake of it, right? It's you're not going to get to know everyone, and you're not going to get to meet everyone, but having that privacy is nice, because public security is essential, and privacy in reality is nice to have. The reason why I talk about this so much is not because I'm one of those people, oh my goodness, the government is doing all these bad things, blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. Don't take me the wrong way. The moment that these companies and these people have the private data that you have on your devices or whatever it may be, they use it to manipulate, the public opinion on a massive scale, which makes privacy no longer a personal luxury. So a lot of these companies and a lot of these government organizations will take your information, they will take your data and use it in a way that they can benefit their own points of views, their own ideas, and their own agendas. Now, the battle in between privacy and security, as I said, will always be, I guess, at a standstill, because not everyone will always agree with these certain things. But I do want to touch point on this, right? Anyone that says that they don't care about privacy because they have nothing to hide and have not thought too deeply about these issues, they are lying. You know what I mean? That's completely absurd. And now, Edward Snowden did quote this, and I will say it to you guys. What they really are saying is, I don't care about this right. When you say I don't care about the right to privacy because I have nothing to hide, that is no different than saying I don't care about freedom of speech because I have nothing to say, or freedom of the press because I have nothing to write. And which makes you think, right? Yes, there is a problem with online threats. Yes, it's a way of being able to access millions of data, and we do need someone to protect us from a lot of these the harm that could happen, right? And that is inevitable. We need a government, an institution, or a company to protect us. That's how it is. That's why there's a lot of antivirus companies, and they release a lot of things. But that's a complete different topic for another time. But you have to realize that online privacy is something so important. Online privacy is an expression of freedom of speech. What you do online, you don't want other people to have it or to take it or to censor you because of it. No, it is your right to do so. Right? And as I said, being online makes up such a significant part of our modern life. And just like the real world, it contains so many threats and dangers that we have to watch out for. So, if there's one thing that you could remember and take away from this, is that your privacy and security online always translate into your privacy and security offline. I know that there have been cases, and my condolences go out to these people, where users have had no privacy settings whatsoever, no security settings on their social media, and have had geotagging on, have had their location services on, have constantly posted where they are at. And that has led them to either be kidnapped, to be murdered, or raped, whatever it has been. There have been cases of things like this occurring. Right? So if you remember that your privacy and security online will reflect on your security offline, that will help you and guide you to see where you need to go to establish these certain settings and limits on what you access. Right? And this leads me to social media. Right? Social media and internet go hand in hand. These are two things that that have really blown up, and social media being the biggest. Right? If social media, if anything, has helped people connect and even find resources, partners, new ventures, etc., and etc. It has helped millions of people, but it has enslaved just as many. Now, don't take me as some type of extremist that I don't like social media. I love social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, whatever it may be. I try to do my part on social media because I do recognize that it has a lot of value, that it has some resources that I wouldn't be able to attain if I just stayed at home and maybe just try to connect on the phone calling people, right? But let's face it, since the emergence of the internet and social media, the way we communicate and conduct our business has transformed in ways that we couldn't have imagined 15 years ago or less. The internet and social media, as I said, provide people with a range of benefits and opportunities. Firstly, to empower themselves in a variety of ways. Young and old people can maintain social connections and support networks that otherwise could not be possible, and can access more information than before. For example, my parents, they maybe weren't the most educated people about social media, but now they are so deep into it. Now they surprise me with a lot of the things they do on social media. They are so in touch with their family members. They find any information they need online. And they can connect with family, with old friends more than ever than before, right? Social media network has always helped people develop a voice, build trust, becoming independent people, better learners and explorers. And that's all with a simple web connection. Right? This has brought so many connections with families and friends. But with all that aside, there is also an aspect that we don't like to talk about. The negative end, or what may be perceived as that based on how you see it. Right? The world has always considered, in a way, it has always considered our voices to be heard only if you are in a position of power or whatever it may be. And we have always had people that are angry, disturbed, hateful, and just sometimes outright ridiculous. But these people in the past would have to gain a position of power or a position of leadership in order to make their voices heard. Right? Some of the smallest groups would have a voice, but it would remain acknowledged as just a small voice and not given much weight. However, nowadays with social media sites such as Facebook, Twitter, and comment sections on most other sites, every angry, disturbed, hateful, and ridiculous person now seems to have a voice that is shot across the world. And it's sometimes funny to see these keyboard warriors online that now all of a sudden they've got a voice. With people now able to have the voice, they're able to rant on public sites. They now have the ability to get the spotlight and a louder, if I could say this term, speaker system, and hurt those that they just want to complain about, given their mood or lack of compassion. Right, and whether we like to admit it or not, social media has been somewhat instinctual to us now. Right? You see something online that you don't like and boom, you start raging. Oh my gosh, I don't like that dress she's wearing. It could be me commenting on a trailer. Ugh, that looks terrible. Why would I want to do that? It's so easy to do it now. But if I were in person with that group of people, I'd be like, yeah, hey, it looks fine. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have that same confidence that I do when I'm posting online when no one can see me, right? As I said, it's social media is becoming instinctual to us, right? You could be at a red light or standing in line waiting for your meal at McDonald's, whatever it may be, and your phone is always within reach. You know, you're always steering towards it. Even if you walk out of a room and leave the phone on the table, you always remain aware of where it is, right? It's just an extension of you, pretty much. Like, do you have? I'm assuming the people that are listening, like, do you have a Facebook or an Instagram account? You know, one of the very first questions in a conversation when teens meet each other, no matter where the conversation starts, teens are almost always drawn to search up a username. They'll be like, hey, do you have Snapchat? Hey, what's your Instagram username? Hey, do you have Facebook? Do you have email? Whatever it may be. And there's no doubt that social networking sites are fun and the best way to pass time and stay connected. But as society, we're often too attached and too addicted to them. Right? We have such an addiction to social media now that it's ruining the way society is formed. Right? People are becoming so addicted to social media that they are spending most of their time on it instead of doing any productive or significant work. Now with Apple's new feature of screen time, you can just tell how much you have spent looking at your screen. And it's crazy because now certain people prefer online conversations and online interactions instead of meeting the person physically, which is weakening all of our relationships. Now, also something that has really made society change is how we live in a constant comparison. And please don't lie, we all do this. We always do this on Instagram mostly. People always use their profiles to project, their lives as perfect. And we always increasingly compare their lives with others and think of themselves, as low, right? So if I see, an old friend that he's now married, he's now making $300K a year, he's driving a Jaguar, and he's posting all this on Instagram, and I compare that to my life, I'm like, wow, I am doing nothing. I'm broke. And it decreases our levels of happiness. And it leads to a lot of self-esteem issues. Now, of course, this doesn't happen for everyone, but this is something that naturally happens on social media. It could be with body image, it could be with financial success. We always compare ourselves to other people. Now, it just leads to so many different things. It takes us to such a rabbit hole, and it also creates such a problem with credibility. Because there's never any reliable measures to check the credibility of news and videos present on social media. People easily believe and don't even think twice to check whether the news or a piece of information is credible or not. Right? Like, if you find out that someone has died via Instagram, a lot of people will just say, oh wow, he's dead. And in reality, it could just be fake. There's been a lot of situations like this where something has happened. It hasn't just been, a death or whatever it may be. It could be anything else. And these things have happened, and they've been posted on social media, but then it comes out on the news, and it's something completely different. Right? The thought of innocent people gets easily shaped and influenced by the distorted information that we see online. Now, as I said, that doesn't happen with everything. Please do keep that in mind when we're talking about this. Right? But something that also has been a reoccurring issue with social media is the constant depression. Now, depression is something that hits hard, it hits home. Right? Anxiety and depression, is what I would say the most underrated disadvantage of social media. Anyone that gets trolled over social media or is harassed easily gets in depression. Now, take that with a grain of salt, right? Some people can handle getting trolled a lot better. But let's say you post a picture online or you post a video of you vlogging or blogging, and a bunch of people start posting negative comments. A lot of people really use these words so lightly, like kill yourself or wow, you're garbage, this is utter trash. That could lead to so much depression and so much negativity in your life so quickly. You'd be surprised how little anxiety it takes for people to start getting stressed, how little anxiety it takes for people to start getting depressed, right? Oftentimes, the person who's getting trolled by social media can't get out of depression very easily. Now, I don't have to state examples of where this has been the case. We all know people that have suffered from being trolled online, from being insulted online, and that has led to sometimes very, very bad consequences, where people post maybe negative videos or negative comments about you, and then that leads to terrible consequences. And it's something that, it's so heartbreaking, because you know that depression and anxiety, yes, they were present before, but if anything, they've been increased tenfold by social media, because it's so easy to access these people through social media and be able to bring them down and lower their self-esteem and insult them and berate them online. And it just makes people get into the state of depression, and it's not easy to get out of it. And this leads to health issues, because in reality, health is what we would consider our most important aspect of our physical lives. And it's so badly affected when many of us spend this much time online, when we spend so much time on our phones. We end up losing so much precious time, limited time, where we spend mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, through Facebook, through Twitter, whatever it may be. Now, as I said before, not all of the things that I've mentioned apply to everyone. I don't intend to overly bash social media and to bring it down, but it still goes without saying that too much consumption of anything will result, in some type of negative consequence, negative outcome. Social media can give you fantastic returns if you use it positively, and I am not taking anything away from it. We all know that. But on the other hand, you can waste a big chunk of your time on social media if you're just doing it to pass the time, if you're just doing it to troll people, if you're just doing it because you have nothing else to do. Right? No matter how much information or entertainment we are enjoying through social media, life can be less great if you spend it all on social media. But if you start spending more time in person with other people, it can be so much greater. Now, there's a quote that I really do love. It's by the one and only Albert Einstein. And he says the following: "I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction." Now, this is just some food for thought, just to keep to ourselves. And it's crazy to realize how much technology really has changed us. If you think of it, if I was my age, 15 years ago, I wouldn't be talking about these issues. I wouldn't be talking about the internet and online privacy and online security. If anything, I'd be talking about something completely different. But technology and the internet and social media has changed us to a point where there's so many good things that we can do, but oftentimes the bad things outweigh all those that we think are going to be benefits to us. Right? And, I know that I'm taking sort of a negative aspect to a lot of these things, and I'm taking a negative, point of view to social media and to online security and privacy. But I think it's so important to dive into these things and make people realize that it's not just about accessing the internet. It's not just about going on Instagram and posting things. But you also have to think about what you truly cherish, right? In terms of online security and online privacy, you've got to always keep in mind that what you post and what you access has to always reflect what you want people to know and what you want people to access, right? So it's just a matter of you finding a balance in between privacy and security. Now, social media, if anything, is going to keep on blowing up, and you and I both know that. But it's about finding as well that balance in between the amount of time that we access it and the amount of time we spend outside interacting normally and dealing with real life situations outside of our phones and our devices, right? And it's just something that I really love talking about because it's something that will always be around. And I was really happy that I was able to talk about this tonight. This is something that has always been a passion of mine, discussing social media and just in general the implications of it. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it. And that is all for tonight. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I appreciate the support that you have shown me up to this point. And I just want to make sure that you tune in May 3rd. I will be having a little break just because I've got one more appointment or just something I have to do in the meantime. So I'm going to be a little busy in the next 2 weeks. So make sure to tune in May 3rd for the next episode of the Savage Spatula. And that one, we will have a special guest. So once again, thank you for tuning in and listening to me rant. Take it easy and have a great night.